Dying Light 2's developers read your mean tweets. PlayStation might be shutting down access to classic content. And Mortal Kombat's Ed Boon wants some injustice for Zack Snyder. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. How's it going, everybody? My name is Victor Lucas, and we have some super cool stuff to dig into today. But first, The Rundown is brought to you by the Gaming Stadium, Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments going on every weekend, and you don't want to miss out on the action. You can find out all about them and join up with them at tgs.gg. Now, today's show is dedicated to Joe Nadeau, who said, "Very sad to see that Gotham Knights got delayed, but I want the game as close to perfect as it can be, so I can wait. We've had so many takes on Batman across TV, films, and games. It's nice to see other members of the Bat family getting the focus. I completely agree with you, Joe. I can't wait for this game, but I can wait as long as they make it great." That's the whole idea, right? Something else that we have been waiting a long time for is Dying Light 2. Techland brought the anticipation for Dying Light 2 to another level with a recent video highlighting some of the adorably mean and impatient tweets that they've been receiving from fans of the franchise. The developers have been doing a terrific job at keeping fans entertained with all kinds of updates to the original Dying Light, but yes, they concede it's time for Dying Light 2 to be released. Now, the gameplay demo that I received at E3 2019 completely blew me away. Unbelievably cool parkour animations and lots of great conflict that you got into with agile zombies and also scumbag human beings. Lots of cool environmental interactions as well. I'm really looking forward to this game. It was teased to be released in spring 2020, but of course a couple things happened in 2020 that slowed down development. There was that pandemic that you might have heard of, and also industry vet Chris Avellone, who was a narrative lead on the game and was also even on stage at E3 2018 to announce the game, was accused of sexual harassment by different people last year, and his contract and his relationship with Techland was terminated. But now it looks like we're finally going to be able to play Dying Light 2 here in 2021 on all of our existing super powerful hardware, whether you've got a PC with a new graphics card in it or one of the new super consoles if you can find one. It looks like Dying Light 2 is going to be a truly beautiful experience this year, and also frightening and terrifying and super fluid and hopefully incredibly fun. What do you guys think? Are you excited about Dying Light 2? Are you a fan of the original game? I mean, what they tried to address with this sequel is they wanted to make it a meteor story. That's why Chris Avellone was hired, but conceivably all kinds of stuff had to be trashed and adapted and changed. But I am very much looking forward to this game. Personally, I want to hear from you guys. Are you excited about this? I expect it might be one of the most enjoyable games to play this year, and that's why I have my fingers crossed. I also have my fingers crossed that Sony is going to reverse a decision that they are reportedly making and do the right thing. The internet is buzzing about a story focused on the PSP, Vita, and PlayStation 3's online stores that was broken by website The Gamer. Citing a reliable inside anonymous source, Sony will shut down the PSP and PS3's online stores on July 2nd, 2021, and then the Vita store on August 27th, 2021. This will make it impossible for users to log on and purchase titles for those platforms if they haven't done so already. And of course, we don't know if we're going to be able to re-download software that we already have purchased for those respective platforms. We don't know anything, as a matter of fact. It's all speculation right now. It's not a confirmed rumor, but it certainly has everybody across the internet talking. John Linneman from Digital Foundry said, "This is troubling. I seriously hope that prior purchases will remain downloadable at least. At least all systems in question can be jailbroken easily." Shane Lewis from Re-Res didn't pull any punches. He said Sony's laziness with their back catalog is incredibly stupid. Xbox can run a bunch of their prior games on their latest hardware effortlessly, and they're always expanding. Sony has absolutely no excuse. And then Benjamin Rivers, an indie developer out there who has games like Home and Worse Than Death available on Sony's platform, says, "Not confirming or denying this report, but from a game dev perspective, losing access to legacy digital content also means losing a revenue source. For small devs, it means more. Hashtag Vita Island." And that's a very interesting perspective because we have, as consumers, I think we often think of just being able to access stuff when we want to, especially when we buy so much stuff digitally these days. But from a developer's standpoint, especially if they're small, that does represent potential new customers finding classic stuff out there. And this actually speaks to something that GameSack's Joe Redifer and Digital Foundry's John Linneman and I discussed when I had them on the podcast not too long ago about the short-sightedness that hardware manufacturers have when they release games digitally like this, and how it's sort of anti-consumer in the long run. We talked about these companies having 30-year plans, because we're all playing consoles to this day that are 30 plus years old and having a lot of fun playing classic games. And that's still true for stuff that came out on the original PlayStation or PlayStation 2. I tweeted out actually that Sony should have excellent emulators available for the PlayStation 5 that will allow players to play classic PS1, PS2, PS3, PSP, and PlayStation Vita software. There's some amazing games in those libraries that should be available for people out there, and Sony should figure that out. And not only that, they should also, if they're not going to create hardware that can play the legacy physical media, they should partner with a company like Analog to create new hardware that will play old PS1 to PS3 discs, and maybe a handheld that can be docked that can play PSP UMDs and the little cards that went into the PlayStation Vita. Lots of people have this physical media and they can't use it unless they're using these classic machines and they keep them in working order. And sometimes the resolutions are iffy and upconverting them is a bit of a drag. There is a business there, and clearly there are companies out there that are responding to the interests and the passion that people have for retro gaming. And it's just so disappointing that PlayStation doesn't acknowledge this. It's like they want people to just forget their history. And PlayStation Now is cool. There's lots of cool things there, but it is not definitive by any means. There isn't a huge library of classic stuff in there. And it's like Sony just wants us to forget the old and just buy the new. And I don't think that's a healthy way to go forward with this business. I feel like this is an industry that learns from its history and reinvents itself on a continuous basis by knowing where it's come from and has a clear vision on where it's going to. And I don't think you can have that clear vision if you don't have access to your archive, if you don't have access to your classic library. And of course, Nintendo is a master at reselling us games into our various collections, but at least what they do is celebrate their history really, really well. Nobody's doing it perfectly. I think that the model that Xbox has with its backwards compatibility is perhaps the closest. But yeah, it's really disappointing, especially for somebody like myself that's been covering this industry for more than 25 years now and has seen these games as they have been developed. I want people to be able to access that content and appreciate it. Anyways, it's a heavy topic. Would love to hear your thoughts. Should Sony find a way to get people access to their classic libraries and keep people happy that way? Or is it just time for PlayStation fans to move forward with the PlayStation 5? Let me know in the comments below. Now, over the weekend, everybody was talking about the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's take on Justice League, including Mortal Kombat's Ed Boon. Ed Boon, co-creator of Mortal Kombat and frequent EP guest, has tweeted out his enthusiasm for the Snyder Cut, which by all accounts was a pretty big smash over the weekend and has people talking about the DC Snyderverse going forward. Boon himself would like Zack Snyder to borrow ideas from the fantastic NetherRealm-made video game franchise Injustice, which sees DC heroes from multiple universes fighting each other in some truly spectacular ways. The nightmare sequence from Zack Snyder's Justice League would tie perfectly into the ideas of the game and the unbelievably good comic series, as well as this multiverse concept that DC is really leaning heavily into. Now, I would support this idea and be stoked for this big time. All of the DC properties can coexist. They've got different Batman versions, they've got different Flash versions, different Superman versions out there. They can all coexist, and maybe this Zack Snyder verse can all peaceably exist on HBO Max. Now, saying all that, I also would like Henry Cavill to return for Man of Steel 2, overseen by Zack Snyder. I'd like to see Ben Affleck reprise his role as Bruce Wayne and Batman in a solo Batman film. I'd like to see a solo Cyborg movie. And if we've got these Snyder-led productions coming down the pipeline, along with Aquaman 2, Wonder Woman 3, that Flash movie, we've got a Shazam 2 and a Black Adam film coming, things start to get really interesting. And that whole sort of messy road that the DCEU has been on kind of starts to take shape, because we've been around these actors playing these characters now for a very long time. It looks like people are pretty enthused by what Zack Snyder has accomplished here. We don't know what the official viewership numbers are. We don't know if it's got legs. We don't know if it's just, the super curious out there like myself and probably many of you. We watched it over the weekend. Are people going to continue to watch this as time goes on? Are they going to repeat view this thing? HBO Max has announced that there's going to be a black and white version of the Justice League coming to the service. It feels like the beginning. It doesn't feel like the end. Even though everybody's been sort of upfront about the fact that this is a cul-de-sac, it doesn't feel like the end, particularly because we've got Ezra Miller returning in his own Flash movie. Ben Affleck is going to appear in there as Batman. We've got Jason Momoa still as Aquaman and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. It doesn't feel like the end for these actors playing these roles and these characters. The only kind of missing ingredient is Henry Cavill. Is he going to be putting on the Superman suit again? And if he is, why not continue some of these story threads? And I guess the big question out there is, how does Warner Brothers and DC and HBO Max work stuff out with Ray Fisher? Because he is a standout in Justice League, and it would be so weird to carry forward with any of this Snyder stuff, and Cyborg isn't a part of it. But you know what? Let me know what you think. Do you want more from the Snyderverse? Let me know in the comments below. And just a couple of other quick things. There's a new Batwoman on the CW this season after the highly publicized departure of Ruby Rose after season 1. Javicia Leslie stepped into the role of Batwoman. But what's happening is Kate Kane, the character that Ruby Rose played, is coming back to the show, but now played by a different actor. Wallace Day is her name, and she is not expected to become Batwoman again. Javicia Leslie will retain the role, but maybe this new Kate Kane is going to become another superhero or perhaps a supervillain. Lots of crazy things happen in the CW verse. And finally, we have some early reviews coming in for Godzilla Vs Kong, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty fun, but also a little dumb. Rob Keyes from Screen Rant, who was just on my last Vic's Basement, said, I watched Godzilla Vs Kong and really enjoyed the monster fights and Kong's humanity. They delivered big on this. The plot, human characters, and the lore explanations are the weakest in the modern franchise, unfortunately, but I still want more sequels. Perry Nemiroff from Collider said, as expected and probably as it should be, the Titan fights are the best parts of Godzilla vs. Kong. Adam Wingard definitely has the eye to make the most of those moments. Still don't think they've nailed how to incorporate human characters, but the top-notch ensemble helps. Jermaine Lassier from IO9 has this helpful formula for us. Kong Skull Island is greater than Godzilla, which is greater than King of the Monsters, which is greater than Godzilla vs. Kong. So Godzilla vs. Kong comes in last place for Jermaine. Now, Megan Peters over at comicbook.com says, I can say I have seen Godzilla vs. Kong, and wow, definitely the best of the Monsterverse. Its main titans have my whole heart. Then she went on to say, I must add that Adam Wingard's cinematography shines in this romp. The kaiju action is what fans have begged for and will fulfill their need for action. Kong and Godzilla get time to shine even after a twist at the end. I will be watching Godzilla vs. Kong many more times. That sounds encouraging. And Eric Goldman over at Get Fandom said, had a great time with Godzilla vs. Kong, which I found way more entertaining than the 2 previous Monsterverse movies with Godzilla in the title, though Kong feels more central, and man, did I love him in it. There's one storyline that feels very extraneous, but otherwise, I was into it. All right, well, that sounds generally pretty positive. I'm excited to check this movie out, and I'll definitely have a review for you when I do. But that's going to do it for our rundown today. I'll be back again tomorrow with a fresh episode for you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you especially to all of our EPN members. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.